All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started and try to stay as on time as we can here. So welcome to our fourth and final week of Munch on This. We have had great attendance. I've been super pleased with how this has been going. I hope everybody's been enjoying it. Have some things in the works that maybe we'll try to do some similar type of things moving forward for this coming month, but maybe more on a once a week basis or a couple of times a month. So be on the lookout for that. My name's Trish Faring. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the field representative and range management specialist for the Grazing Lands Coalition. And my husband and I are a mentor on the Grazing Lands Coalition, and then we ranch north of Beach, North Dakota. Have 2 daughters. Just a little introduction. Also joining me tonight again is Jay Fear. So Jay, welcome. Thanks for joining us again. And Jay is going to be our moderator this evening again. So just so that you know, the meeting tonight is being recorded, and all of these meetings, I think I have all of them updated on our YouTube channel. Except for me. No, I did do Thursday nights too. I think we're good through last Thursday night. So all of those have been posted on the YouTube channel, and you are more than welcome to go back if there's something that you didn't catch or parts of it you missed or something. I would also like to, this evening, we did have a couple of sponsors that I would like to mention. One of them is the North Dakota chapter of the Wildlife Society, and then also the Morton County Soil Conservation District that have done some sponsorships for us for Munch on This. So thank you to them for doing that. This evening with us, we have Dave Bauer, and I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Jay. I think that was everything I needed to say. So I'll turn it over to you, Jay, and you can introduce our speaker.
Very good. Thank you, Trish. And good evening, everyone. This evening we're going to continue with the North Dakota Grazing Lands Coalition series, Munch on This. And this evening we have Mr. Bauer. And I specifically asked if I could introduce him because I have a little history with the Bauer family and had the pleasure of working on their operation many times over the years. And it was always an honor and it was always a treat. And so it's something that I've always looked forward to. So likewise this evening. So with that, I want to introduce David. So David and Tanya Bauer, along with their children, Hunter, Trayton, and Olivia, manage a cow-calf operation near Regan, North Dakota. And their decision-making process is based on the holistic management, allowing the Bauers to fit cattle to their environment. So David and his family believe in regenerative practices and the 5 soil health principles that will lead to their goal of healthy soil, landscape, plants, animals, and people. And this evening, David is presenting Don't Get Caught on the Fence, strategies that may work for you. And he's going to share some of this with us this evening. And I think that's going to be an interesting look at the Bauer operation. And so anytime a producer is willing to share what they have going on in their particular landscape, I think there's always an opportunity to learn there. And so with that, and with no further discussion, I give you David Bauer.
Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate that, and hopefully I will make it good for everyone to have learned something here tonight, and if you can pick out 1 or 2 things, and that's generally what I try to do when I go to different meetings. Sometimes people are from a long ways away or something like that, and you just kind of go, well, I don't know if I'll get much, but oftentimes I still am able to figure it out. So that works out pretty good here. So I will try to pull up my thing here. And we should be able to get going, I think. That do anything yet?
Yep.
All right, but
Do you
it's,
want to go,
it's,
do you want to go down to the
No,
slideshow?
there we go.
there you go.
There you go.
I was
You got
pushing the button. I must not have pushed it right here. Okay.
You got it. Looks good. Looks real good.
All right. Well, I guess I'd like to thank the mentors and Trish and everybody else for letting me do this. And as Jay said, I generally try to go through my holistic management process when I do things, although probably don't do it as much as I should sometimes. But like my bigger decisions, I try to push that through my 7 questions. I guess it's the 7 context questions now, but one of the main things is that you have to know what your context is, and most of us we want good water and good air and good good society around us and healthy kids and we kind of have that our own little piece of paradise sort of thinking, and that's kind of what we always have. So I guess that's one of my things is what is this your paradise? When I went on the line there, I just typed in a picture of paradise, and this is what came up, or one of the many, but they all seem to be kind of this tropical theme. But when I look out my window, I don't see that at all. So I one thing about the context is that in the holistic Alan Savory's book, it's the context is the reason we want to do something, and there's always at least one. And I would like to say there's also a reason not to do something. So sometimes you just don't get things done, but most of the time there's always a reason, and so there is always a context. So I guess the thing I'm getting at is if this is your paradise, maybe you don't even need to be thinking about why you should be putting up another fence. You should be thinking about how to get there. But maybe what happens though is we all have our places and our family farms, and we want to continue on and do that. And maybe this is just a nice place to go visit. So if the one thing you want to kind of keep track of is why are you doing the fencing? There's oftentimes we think we got to get all of the fencing done and all the time. So sometimes what we need to do is go, well, I need to get this much fence done. Should I get it higher done? And what are the things I need to think about as far as fencing? How much labor do I have? How much time do I have? How expensive is it? Do I have these different things lined up? Are you going to have to take loans or get equip programs to help you do different things? It's we've seen the Game and Fish and the different wildlife federations and Ducks Unlimited and many different organizations are more than willing to help as long as you have the feelers out there, and with North Dakota Grazing Lands, we can put you in line with different things. But we all need to know what we're thinking of and have a plan going forward. The first thing I'd like to say is what do you really need a fence? We've been grazing and pushing cattle and sheep for 10,000 years, and barbed wire came out in the 1800s. So, as far as trying to get fencing and oftentimes it's just there's large tracts of land that just are not economical to fence, and sometimes if we could step back a little bit, we could kind of go, if I was out there with my cattle more, or if I want to get this specific area that right now it just doesn't seem economic for me to get a fence on it, maybe you don't need the fence. I'm not saying you should probably herd your cattle or sheep or goats or whatever you have every single day of the year, but it can be an option for you to get things done. I think it's Bob Kinford or Kingford. He does classes and different things. There's several different people throughout the country that teach you how to herd your cattle and group them up and place them in certain areas. And I just don't want you to think that it always has to be a fence to make your land a better. Thomas Jefferson said that any time you can get 2 blades of grass to grow in a place where before there was only one, you've led a good life. So that's what we're all trying to do here is get our land in better shape. So another thing you can think about with fencing is besides your labor and time, if you want to hire that done, that's one thing, but maybe you want to do it yourself. You can be teaching your kids, a good work ethic, that makes them stronger by carrying fence posts and you get the medical, care, when they cut themselves on the barbed wire. There's all kinds of things that you can teach your kids and in your family time, and you get that bonding experience. So there's always good things that come from fencing also, and you also you can also kind of learn about pride in your work. When you get a good fence built and you can look back at that and in North Dakota here anyway, we're pretty lucky. We can build a fence and it'll stay pretty good if you did a good job for quite a while. I've heard of some areas that it's 10-15 years is about as long as a really good fence will even last. So they get pretty good at it, I guess. But this is one of the fences we've recently built here. I try to do in my area, I try to do barbed wire. I have 3 barbed wires and then a smooth hot wire, and that is my perimeter fence. And I do that, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but I do that to that I always have power around the entire thing. It helps keep the neighbors' bulls out, and it helps keep mine in. I'm moving my cattle enough now that generally they're not getting out. Every once in a while there'll be a calf or something that finds that low area that it can sneak through or something. But in general, with a good hot fence, they don't push on these fences. They don't have that much trouble. The one thing I've noticed is I've had some fences where I've just had to get something done, so I just put up a smooth wire fence. Well, when the neighbors go by and see something out, then they'll either call me and say, well, there's cattle out, or they'll call the sheriff, which is way worse. They don't like chasing cattle for some reason. But what will happen is I'll get phone calls all the time, but oftentimes if I have a good barbed wire fence and they see a calf out, they'll just chase it in. And I don't get that, but it's funny. And I guess they figure, well, if that's all the fence he's going to put up is a hot wire, then I'm not going to help him anymore. I don't know. But if I have a barbed wire fence on the perimeter, they generally stay in, and they like the saying is, good fences lead to good neighbors. And I also want to say too, animals are animals. If your bull gets out into your neighbor's land or your neighbor's cropland or whatever, they're still your responsibility. You need to, stand up, and that's why we have insurance for that kind of thing. And they got out, and I've seen bulls break railroad ties off before fighting. So no matter how good a fence, you're never going to have it perfect. There's going to be some animals that probably just need to get down the road, but sometimes it's just things happen, and they're your neighbor forever. You don't need to be fighting and angry with people about something that is really out of your control. So that's just my little part there. Just so you know, This is one, I'm standing by a corner post. This is the direction that we got done. And this is the direction, and believe it or not, the other side was worse. This is what we want to try to get fixed this next year. So it doesn't all get done in 1 year, and it didn't all go bad in 1 year. So what you kind of have to do is go, okay, I can get this much done in this much time. I've got this much to allocate to rebuilding, and I can kind of go from there. And this one didn't get done last year, but there too, even as bad as this fence is, they stay in because I still put a hot wire up there. And with that hot wire there, they don't stick their head through and make it any worse. And when I replace this fence, I won't even take that hot wire off. I'll tear out all the other wire. I'll take the power off of it, but I'll tear out the fence and the posts and the wire, and then I'll just relift that hot wire back up, and then I'll just run the new wire as I want to. So it's not like I'm doing something there that I have to just completely redo. I'm able to just get that up. I can keep my cattle in the meantime, and I still have power all the way around the fence, and it doesn't look good, but it keeps them in. So that's one method I use. Then this is another method, and it's kind of the same thing. This is cropland to the side, to the right side of it, I guess. And what I'll do to spread out my time, see this, there must be a post every 5 or 6 feet, because that's kind of a corner where they break out often. And not so much anymore, because there again, I put a hot wire up, and then I stagger a fence post out probably about 16 inches, and then I'll go back and forth to the post along a fence like that I'm going to eventually replace. That way they stay in. The fence is actually faced the wrong direction. As you can see, the nipples are facing the cropland, and I don't need to keep the cows in the cropland. I'm trying to keep them out of it. So that's one of those things. It's just, it was made a different way years ago, and I want it the other way. So the other, that was the other thing that I think Bud Williams said it. America is one of the greatest places in the world. We're surrounded by water on 3. So if your cattle get out, we're surrounded by water on 3 sides, and the Canadians won't let them in. So that they'll always get them stopped. So you don't have to worry about that. We'll get to this is my H braces. I'm not going to really get into all of the different ways of making H braces and different things like that. I think NRCS and the extension services, they've got several handouts about how exactly the feet and that kind of thing go. The one thing I want to bring about is how I make my H braces maybe a little bit different than other people. As you can see, there's that your cross wire there, and there's a little rod that's sticking out of that. What that is a rake tooth. It's a broken rake tooth, and I snip the ends out of both of them, and I'll pound the rake tooth, or I'll take a drill, and I'll drill out a hole in the end of the cross brace, and I'll stick, and I'll drill the H brace, and then when I set this one up, then on the opposite side, I'll drill straight through this post, and then I'll pound another rake tooth in this end. That keeps my H brace straight, and it keeps the cross brace right in there. And then then I'll always leave a little bit stick out, and this is along the fence. Then you can kind of show it, that So that's being covered up by the barbed wire. So nothing is going to walk by it and get snagged by it or anything. But then that holds your brace wire, and it won't slide down your post, and you don't have to worry about that. So that's one thing that I do a little bit different. Another main thing you have to worry about with H braces is your length. You've got to have the right angles to get the support from that H brace. I oftentimes will drive places or see different things, and that top brace post is, they must have taken an 8-footer and just cut it in half so that they could get 2 done or something. You'd be better off just sinking that corner post way deeper. And that's one thing I like to try to do too, is pound that post. You don't need to have a whole bunch of post above your top barbed wire. All that helps is the hawks to have a place to land and go after your lambs. So that's generally not a good idea either. So there's nothing that does much good a post way higher than your barbed wire. So and like I said, with that one, several of my fences are probably 80 years old. So you just can't get it all done. There's several good YouTube videos that are out there that have different kinds of H bracing and that kind of thing too. So there's, I guess I just didn't think I'd take the time to show all the different ways of the different bracings and that kind of thing, because different areas have different concepts. Another thing though that I've started doing with the high tensile wire is I don't use the sleeves and then the crimping. I guess it would be a pliers, but it's a crimping tool because it's really big and you have to carry it around. And it was always in the wrong pickup. And I would get out to the field and go, okay, I got all my stuff, and then the thing fell off the edge of the 4-wheeler. So I'd spend hours trying to find that thing. So then I told my wife, I said, this is crazy. I need to figure out a different way to do these. And she started YouTubing, and this is what she found. So I'll put my 2 cents in. I don't know how well this will come out, but I'll kind of show you. But most of those guys are in Australia and they're wearing shorts. So I figured I'd make one where I'm wearing coveralls. It was about 26 below. So I'll give you this a show here. The main thing is you're trying to just you pull it around the post, and you don't want to kink the wire too much, but you go around. You can give yourself plenty of room, and then you want to go up past it, and you make a nice easy loop, and then it's kind of like a figure 8. You go over, under, so then you come back up over the wire, and then you go back down under. But you don't want to kink this part, because if you kink this part too much, then that's what tightens it. So then you just wrap it tight here about 3 times is about what works best. And when you turn it back the other direction, it just breaks right off and it's nice and smooth. And then it actually will slide and tighten right up against the post. So then when you pull that tight, it'll slide right up against tight, and it'll stay right on your post. You don't even really need a staple. A lot of times I'll put a staple in, but it'll stay right there, and everything is nice and smooth. Another thing I do, they call this a speed knot or a Donaldson knot. I've heard it called also. There's a few different ways of doing it, but here too, you don't need your crimping sleeve. And there's actually, I think it's Tim Thompson in Australia. He's actually tested how strong these knots are compared to the sleeves. The sleeves are a little bit stronger, but the sleeves are 75 cents to $1 a piece, and this is, and then you got to have the tools to do it besides. I'm not against the sleeves, it's just that oftentimes I just don't have them, and these are nice, easy, really smooth knots. So I did one of those too. This is a Hayes 108 stretcher. And that is generally what I use for my smooth wire. It grabs the wire a lot better. And I think it does a pretty good job. So as you can see, you just kind of close it up. And then when you pull that center back, it just lays tight in there. You want it about the length of your claws. And then once you set that, it just stays right in there. You got to have tension on it, I guess, but then generally once it's set, it stays pretty good. And there too, you just kind of push it through the claws and get it set. And then once you pull it, it just locks right in there. It really works well. These are kind of expensive stretchers, but they really, for high tensile wire, this is really good. I think it works well. This is a little bit different way than I have been doing it, so I'm kind of learning how to do this knot again. But I think this is probably a little bit stronger than the knot I was showing in my hand, but with gloved hands, I don't do quite as good a job as I like to do. But this one here, you lift that up straight. You then wrap it twice. You need to have that pretty tight against the chain. Then you bring that down over the top of your wire. And this is the one part I didn't quite do it right. It'll work, but it didn't quite do it right. You're supposed to go through that loop there then, and then come back around like I do, but you're supposed to go through that loop first. But you put a little handle in it, and you wrap it. I had to get it because I did it wrong. It wouldn't wrap tight. but once you get that wire set, then you can pull it through. This type of knot with the wire the way it is, it will it should lead the power through it quite well too, because you're tightening those knots together with each other, so they the current should flow through quite well. There too, if you turn the handle then 90 degrees, it should snap right off. And then it's a nice smooth. And the white thing about that is once you get that set, then you don't lose hardly any tension at all on your line. So that's one thing I like about it there too. It's a lot bigger knot, so I'm gonna have to show how it usually is quite smooth and thin, so it works pretty well. And there too, I'm still I was still learning on this one, so there's better knots, but you know, you'll get plenty of practice. So that's one of the things I like about the high tensile wire. It's really easy to work with and gets things done pretty good. So gates. Now I've talked to some professional fencers and stuff like that, and they say gates are generally on average about 16 feet. I both farm with my dad and brother and we ranch. We generally like those gates about 40 feet because that's about the width of our headers. The other thing is if you can get them sunk in low enough, then you don't have to worry so much about the 40 feet. But those 40 feet's a little hard for a fence or a gate to stretch, but it's way better to have a little wider gate than a little narrower gate. So there too, it's kind of up to you and how things work for you. You need to know what you're capable of and the different uses that you're going to be doing with the land you're doing. So you need to have a plan. When I have the longer gates, I generally use those fence stays or whatever that just kind of twist right into the fence. It still keeps the gate light, but it keeps the wires manageable, and when you open and close the gate, they don't all tangle up and that kind of thing. So the one thing I want to talk about then is oh yes, yeah, and is gate placements. One thing you want to think about is how often are you going to be moving your cattle? You want to move them often. You know, the more you move them, the more balanced their diet can be and that kind of thing. But everybody has the debate: do you want your gate in the middle of a fence line or in the corners? And there too, sometimes if you've got like a half a mile fence, NRCS regulations is every 1,300 feet you have to have a brace post, and it's got to be an H brace post. And I figure if I'm going to put two posts in for an H brace, I may as well put a gate there too. So I oftentimes will just put a gate there, and then you have a fence in the middle. Those red dots kind of represent people. If you're trying to chase your cattle, what generally you want to do is kind of just try to get them up to the hole, or you can even call them up there. But if you're moving cows and calves, this is one thing that I've noticed, that if you have it in the middle like that, and you can get, I'll either park my four-wheeler or I'll have another person with me, and you don't have to be very close to the gate. In fact, it's better if you're a little ways away. But if you stand opposite of that, and then generally what happens is the cattle will just sort of flow through and enter the other paddock, almost like a flower or something. They just kind of slowly spread out when you have it in the middle like that. When you put it in the corner like that, oftentimes there too, the red dot is off to the left of the cattle, and they're a little ways back. But if you get them up into that corner, what I would do is open that corner gate and then walk back along that fence and let the animals go by. And there too, what they'll want to do is a fence causes pressure. So instead of them walking in and going straight down the fence line, what they'll do is they'll walk and then spread out from that opening. So if you're along that kind of off to the side, the cattle usually, there's always an Einstein in the group that wants to run back towards you. So if you're standing in that position, generally, once they're trained pretty well, they will just flow into it just like that. So saying you have to have a corner fence or a middle fence, you know, there too, it's what you have time for, where it works for you, and how things work out. If you stand back there where that red dot is now, you're almost guaranteed to have that happen to you. And it's always those month-old calves that can run faster than you want to drive with your four-wheeler or ride a horse. So that it's much easier to try to chase them correctly. So I guess this is the kind of the part here where I get into how sorry about that. If you're not in the right place, it's going to take you longer just because of how the cattle react. I guess that was the one thing I want to talk about there. All right, and this part here, in general, 1,000-pound cow needs about 3% or about 30 pounds of dry matter every single day. So the way we need to think about taking care of our animals is how many steps do you have to take to get 30 pounds into that cow? This is about the last day, and it was fairly late in the fall when I took this. And the cows are doing okay because I'm giving them plenty of area there, but it's kind of on top of a hill, but I wanted a couple different looks at it. But if you have 1,000-pound cow, how many steps is she going to have to take? Is she going to have to take, how many steps would you have to take? I'm sorry, so that you know your yards. So how many steps would you have to take across that land to take half, leave half, and still give that cow 30 pounds? That's what we need to concentrate on. And here's the other thing. If you have an 1,800-pound cow, that cow is going to need 54 pounds. So then you have to take that into account too. Some people have larger cattle than others. We can talk about that too, but you need to feed the animals you have. So you need to be able to step that area off and that's, they call it the grazer's eye. And Ken probably knows it better than anybody, but Ken and several of our mentors have done this so many times they don't even have to take a stick with them anymore, probably. But I'll take a couple of the ring top posts with me, or one of my sons or something like that, and we can go out and we'll step it off and just try to figure out, okay, how much area do these animals still need, or how long can I keep them in this area? And what time of year? That there towards the end, a lot of that was dry matter. So there's not going to be a whole lot of water in it. Something like this, where it's in the spring. This is a rye. Well, there's alfalfa and vetch and several things in the bottom there, but the tall stuff there is rye, and it's probably 40% water. So you have to take that into account when you're trying to figure out your steps too. 1 acre is 4,840 yards. So you need to be able to know that if you have 1,000-pound cow in a pasture like this, how many steps would you take? There's a lot of material there. You can just see the cow's backs in areas. So if you took 5 steps, that would be 5 yards. So if you have 5 yards by 5 yards, that would be 25 square yards. 25 square yards, I could put 193 or 194 cows in 1 acre for 1 day. So if that's your situation, then you're able to do that. If it would take 10, you'd do half of that. It's something that you have to watch every single day and understand that your animals are fed every single day, whether you're feeding them with a bale or whether you're feeding them on the land. And it's much better to feed them on the land, because if you feed them on the land, you're going to get all of that organic matter put back down onto the land. And for every 1% of organic matter you have, that will hold 1 inch of rain. The way it's looking like this year, they're talking we might not get a whole lot of that this year. So we want to make sure that we have as much organic matter in our soil and enough cover on our land so that if it does rain, it's not going to evaporate or just wash away. So that's pretty important thing. So this is one of the main things that I use. It's the 7-bar L cable reels. The deal right up there by the handle is what you pulled out the handle and you put that on your drill, and you just put a little oil on the thing, and you can wrap up a half a mile of wire pretty quickly. This reel here has half a mile. I've put up to 4,000 feet on a reel like this, and just about been able to do that for an entire mile. So even whole quarters a person can get fenced with a reel like that. And then I'll use ring top posts. I've used other posts. I've used those white insulated posts, and yeah, once you get shocked a couple times trying to pick them up, because with the cable they saw through that PVC pretty quickly. That was my downfall, and then it shorts out, and then you start having other trouble. So I guess I like these ring top posts. They're not as strong, but that's kind of what I've been going with then. So, and I guess time is the only thing we can't get back. So I guess I hope things work out for everybody this next year, and I hope I was able to share something that would help people out as the years go by. But the other thing I was just going to say is there's often different ways of doing your different projects and stuff, and I there's the general wagon wheel approach for fencing your cattle, and there's lanes. I think lanes might be a little more efficient, but generally I've just been using the wagon wheel type deal. So there too, it all depends on your situation, what you have, what you want to take time to do, and how much facilities you have already. It's your water that I find is my greatest problem. So wagon wheel type situation does work pretty well for me, but everybody has their own areas. So it works best if you can have a mentor come to your place and help you and see what they're looking at, and see what you're doing, and help you along that way. Trying to tell somebody this is what I knew, or this is what I'm doing, and you should just be able to tell me it. There's no perfect situation, and there's no prescription that you can just say this is it, and you'll always win. We're working with nature, and everything's changing all the time. So call a mentor or visit with a mentor, have them come to your place, and they'll be able to help you so much better. So I guess that's my part, and if there was any questions or anything, I'd like to answer them if there was anything, I guess.
Well, I think, first of all, thank you, David. And that's a wealth of information, and a lot of it is learned on the job, and what's been the most effective, and that type of scenario. And I think, Trish, what we probably want to do at this point is probably take some questions if David is willing. And what we've done in the past is, you could send them in. Trish can find those on her end, and we can start that process. And then maybe after that, we can actually even open it up and have people on mute and ask their question also. But maybe we could start with some of the questions that were sent in, if we could, Trish.
Yes, one of them was, what is the name of the fence stretching tool that you were using?
It's a Hayes 108 is what it is.
Is that Hayes, Dave?
Yes, yep. It's
Okay.
Hayes. I think you can get them from Jim Garish. I can't remember offhand what his company's name is. I think Premier has them. There's a couple different varieties. Hayes is one of the oldest companies. So my brother has a South African that works for him, and that's kind of what he says is, we've got those for 100. We've used those for 100 years. So So he says that works really well. So that's the one I bought. I think there's a couple different kinds. I think there's actually one that actually has a gauge right in the chain. So you know exactly how much tension you're even putting on the wire. So,
Okay.
but there too, that's going to be a little more expensive there then. So
Sure. Very good.
Another question is on your gates, are you running juice through the gates since you're putting 3 barb and 1 hot? Or are you going under or over, or how are you doing that?
yeah, I didn't explain that very well. Yes, I generally go under. I've tried to do gates before with just a single wire, hot wire, and then you don't have to worry about it shorting out or anything like that. Then I can't get the cows to go through the gate. You can, but it just takes a lot longer. So if I do that, what I'll generally do is I'll just take like a corral panel and just put it up there, or take 2 corral panels or whatever, and I'll put it in the gate, and then I'll still use like if I have to use that wire to get the power across, I'll still use that wire, but I'll put the corral panel up there. And then when I want to move them, then I'll take the corral panel down, move it out of the way and take the wire off. Then they know that there's not a gate there, and then they'll go through. But it seems like if I just have the wire there, they don't want to go through. The other thing I've done, and this is when I'm building my fences now, I actually I'll get like 1/2 inch just plastic pipe, not PVC pipe, just the black water pipe, and just the cheaper stuff. I'll put the 1/2 inch and I'll dig that underneath the gate, and then I'll just run a smooth wire right through that. That's a little cheaper than buying the insulated wire. If I have trouble, I'll sometimes put an insulated wire in that tube, and then I'll just go underneath the gate. But like a 40-foot gate, I can't get the plastic pipe through that, or the plastic coated wire through that very well. So then I'll just use a single, just a regular high tensile wire and push that through. And then I'll just jump it underneath the thing. And then I'll just have like 3 barbed wire fence going there. And then sometimes if I have trouble with them pushing on the fence too much or something like that, then I'll still put a hot wire up, just kind of out, like in some fences, I'll put like a couple ring top posts either on one side or the other, just so it's hot. And then when I want to move them, they'll still see that barbed wire fence is gone, or that barbed wire gate is gone, and then they still will go through even if they got shocked from that. But that's the 3 different ways I guess I've done gates. So.
Okay.
Very good.
Another question that came in is, what size or type of cable do you use for cross fencing?
I think it's 3/16. It's aircraft cable. It's pretty small. There too, you can just tie that back together if something happens to it, like that turbo wire or something like that. What I've done sometimes is I'll use that cable to make a lane, and then I'll use like a turbo wire, just the poly plastic. I think the one with stainless steel and copper is called turbo wire. It's a little bit better. And then I'll divide a lane out with that, because there's not a whole lot of weight to that. And then I'll use that plastic geared wire if I'm trying to do a high intensive type grazing for little areas or something. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 3/16. Ken might be able to say exactly what it is. When I buy it from 7 Bar, he generally just has it, so I can't remember.
Sure.
Those are the only ones that I have right now.
Okay.
Hey, Dave,
Yes.
how's the sheep experiment going? It's Pete.
Oh, it's going well. I'm learning a lot. So
How'd they lamb last year?
they lamb well. They lamb well. I lost some from hawks and eagles. I never believed I would do that. So, yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
nice to see, but not on your lambs.
Yeah, I've never seen a hawk. I've seen owls only a couple times, but they claim like a golden eagle or a pair of golden eagles would pretty much eliminate a lamb crop.
Yeah. Yeah, I was able to get a Great Pyrenees in, and that slowed them up quite a bit. Then they didn't seem to bother as much. But
Well, good. How did you market them, or have you?
I haven't marketed them. I'm
Woo.
trying to keep the females, and we have several South Africans that are in the area, and they are always asking for sheep. So that's probably that's kind of what we're doing now. Up at my dad's place is we're building a slaughter plant, so we're probably going to be marketing them that way.
Well, that's good. They're worth a pile of money right now. So.
Yeah.
What else was I going to ask you? Oh, there were some hair ewes you got in that bunch.
Yes. Yep.
How have you noticed them behaving in the weather compared to the wool ewes, like this weather today?
I guess I haven't seen that it bothers them any worse. They're out just like all the rest of them. And
That's good.
that kind of surprised me, but yeah, it doesn't seem like that bothers them any worse than the rest of them. They'll just sit out there and in the cold. I don't know.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it was noticeable in our place. I do know that. The good ones mostly went out with the wool ewes, but the so ones, they didn't go out.
They just stayed in. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they stayed under cover. But that's good.
Very good. Anyone else would like to unmute and ask Dave a question? You'd be welcome to.
Another one that came up in the chat is, are you running your sheep in the fences you showed us, and also what breed?
No, I don't have the sheep in those fences at all down there. I've got the sheep up by my place. That's my pasture. My pastures are about 5 miles away. My sheep are kind of the kids' project. So we have them, and we've been running netting, the poly netting with the sheep. And then I've got some woven wire around the place. And then where there isn't woven wire, then we put the netting there also. So yeah, we're all just kind of learning with the sheep. So that's why I didn't really bring it up too much in my program here, because I'm still learning quite a lot. So.
Well, this way everybody's going right along with you, right?
Right.
Another one that came in, I have a hard time getting high tensile wire really hot. Any tips, and what type of fencer are you using?
I'm using a Gallagher 2500. So that generally shocks at about 5 joules. And if it's getting, if there's a lot of vegetation or stuff like that, it'll go up to 25 joules. So you don't want to get shocked with that. Generally, it really shocks. And that's what I've always, when I first started, I was trying to buy the cheap one at the local farm store. And now the farm stores are starting to carry the bigger ones. I think Stay Fix is a little cheaper than the Gallagher. But Gallagher has the shutoffs and all that. So that's kind of nice to have. But that's the one I got, was about it's a 25 joule one. And I think I want to say Stay Fix has one that's like a 36 joule one. So you get the big joules, and they respect it, and they won't even step over it or step under it or anything. They don't want to do anything by that fence. And that's one thing you can know is if they're actually getting close to that fence, like if you've got a high tensile wire or something, and they're trying to get down on their knees to eat underneath it or something like that, you've left them in there too long. You got to get them moved. They're hungry. So that's one way of knowing that your cattle aren't happy, is if they're trying to eat by a hot wire fence that's good and hot. The other thing is ground. Oftentimes you don't have very good ground. A lot of times I'll try to have, main power, and I'll put the ground wires on the drip line of the building that I have the power in. That way, any rain or moisture that comes will keep those grounding rods hot and well grounded with the soil. I think they say, and I could be wrong on this, I think they recommend like 6 feet. You have to pound in a post for every joule that you have of fence. I don't have 25 grounding rods in my fence. I've got about three or four, but the way you need to think about it is those grounding rods are kind of like your TV antenna. If you don't have enough antenna there to make that circuit, it's not going to shock them as well either. So the moisture in the ground, and that you have enough ground. Some people actually will go and ground it and run a second hot wire, and then that'll be a ground. So they'll hook that hot wire to their ground side of their charger, and then they'll put grounding rods in along the fence and hook it to that grounded wire, and that will give you more heat also.
I do think that the common problem that people run into is they don't have enough ground rods in for the number of joules that they're running. And they do have a 36 joule one, and I have tested that before myself, and you don't want to touch it.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, you don't even have to touch it sometimes, and it'll reach
No.
out and get you.
Right.
Yep.
David, I'd like to sneak in a question if I could, and you kind of touched on it, so this might be a good time to ask you. And that's indicators, livestock or your cattle indicators that maybe I should have moved sooner, for instance. And one of them you mentioned was if they're on their knees underneath an electric fence. Yes. Any other indicators that you kind of look for, clues that give you an advance warning that, yeah, it's time?
The easiest indicator that I've found is cows only want to graze about 8 hours a day. So if you watch your cattle and you just put them in a new pasture, they will they'll go out there and eat, and then after a little while they'll just sit down, or they'll lay down and kind of chew their cud, and they're just happy. After a few days, you'll notice that you say you go out and check them at 10 o'clock in the morning, for example. They're all laying down. There might be 1 or 2 kind of grazing here and there, but most of them are laying down. And then all of a sudden you go out and check them 2-3 days later. Well, it's noon or 1 o'clock, and they're all still up trying to graze. Then you know they're having to eat a lot longer to get their fill for that morning, because they'll eat, then they'll chew their cud, then they'll eat again, and then nighttime sort of thing. And if they're having to eat way longer in the day before they lay down and are content, they're running out of feed. The other thing too is check that triangle shape between their left side, behind their rib and up to their hip bone and down. That little triangle, if that is flat, you're okay. If it's sunk in, they're not getting enough to eat, and oftentimes too there'll be smaller, younger, or older, weaker cattle, and they'll quit eating before the rest of them, just because they get picked on if they don't. So if they start going backwards, then that's another thing you can look at to see. But that's the biggest thing I've kind of finally caught on to, is that you go out there and check them at 10 o'clock for 3 days in a row and they're already laying down and not doing anything. And then all of a sudden you go out there the next day and it's 10 o'clock and they're all still up just eating. There's either a front coming in or they're not getting enough. They're having to work a lot harder for that. So that's the thing that I've noticed.
Very good. Appreciate you sharing that. Anyone else would like to unmute and ask David a question?
There was a comment on Facebook from Tanya Bauer, actually, and it says, "You must have some amazing fence builders."
Yeah, I sure do.
It's best to acknowledge them.
Yes,
Right.
yes, I do. Yeah, they keep me on my toes and they keep us all busy. So
David, do you actually get royalties for those videos you put together, or are you-
no, I figured, hey, I need something to stretch this speech out a little bit. Maybe I should make a video.
I think they're quite effective.
Mhm.
And I think it's a really great way to illustrate on how you're doing that. So
Yeah.
I thought those were really good. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and in fact, we could maybe even try to do some when it's warmer outside, so that you don't have to have gloves on, and then maybe we can even share those and post those to the YouTube channel and
make it work a little better. Yeah. When you have bare hands, it is easier to grip the wire and stuff. So it does help. So.
And I think what we're hearing from you this evening is there's more than one way to do this.
Right. Yep.
And I think you've shown us a multitude of ways that you've used in the past. And it appears you found something that works in your environment.
Right. Yep. Well, if there's some way to do something wrong, I've generally done that. So
Already been there, took care of that already. Yes. I know. So we appreciate you going through those and explaining them as you went, and the videos are very helpful. I think also the alternatives, gives us more than one way to do something that might fit somebody else more one way or the other. So very helpful item again. And I think your holistic training has been kicking in.
Well, thank you.
Very good. Trish, anything that you would like to add yet, or?
I've got a couple more questions that came in. So
by all means.
How are you wintering your animals?
I generally am, we're kind of a crop pasture situation. So we'll have, like on a quarter of land, we'll have 100 acres of cropland and 40 acres of pasture or something like that. It's either too rocky or hilly or something to do cropland. So kind of my unfair advantage is running my cattle on cropland, fenced cropland and that kind of thing. So corn stalks, that kind of thing. And then I will supplement with like an alfalfa bale here and there. Now I've pretty much used up most of my corn stalks that I have fence around and that kind of thing. So now I'm pretty much, and generally what I'll do, I'm kind of doing a hybrid of bale grazing. What I'll do is I'll take out enough hay for like a week and a half, something like that. Like when it gets cold like this, I like to see them every day. So I'll still probably try to feed for like a week, but if they start, and then I'll probably take a alfalfa bale out to them every other day or something like that. But if they're going through that hay faster, then I'll feed them too. But to get back to it, I'll try to feed for like a week or so, kind of in different areas of the pasture that are weaker or like alfalfa patch. I'm doing I've got some pretty bad cuts in our cropland. It's big washes. They were there before we rented it, Jay. but there's pretty large cuts from waterways. So what I've been doing is I feed right inside of that cut with hay bales. I'll just put them right in the bottom of that cut, And I'm trying to kind of fill that up with some vegetation, and at least if we drive over it and stuff, it's filling in, and it'll slow down that water in the spring and that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
so that's kind of the different things we do there.
Okay. Another one that came in is, what would you say is the best way for you to personally challenge your own paradigms?
One thing that I've noticed is kids have a way different way of looking at things. And if you're able to get out of your own way and not tell your kids, do it because I told you to do it that way, try to get them to figure it out for you, because sometimes they will surprise you with how intelligent or just how things, by looking at it with a different set of eyes, they can really open yours. I remember this was several years ago. My son was with me riding in the tractor and we were feeding, and it was just like this. It was like 20 below out, and we were getting in and out, and the cows would get it. The hay yard was right by it, and the cows would be getting out and into the hay, and you're always fighting something. And my son said, why are we feeding hay? And I said, well, the cows got to eat something. He goes, we should figure out a different way so we don't have to feed them hay. And so I've been doing that ever since. so we're feeding less hay, but we still feed it, but that, yeah, if you can figure out a way to stockpile your grass, get them out on corn stalks, get them out on aftermath grazing, get them out on cover crops, several different things. It's all on the table.
Very good. Very good. Trish, any other comments coming up, questions?
No, just a couple of things, I guess, that I wrote down. The good fences equal good neighbors. That is so true. A person doesn't think about that, but the last thing you want is the phone call from your neighbor saying your cattle are out in the middle of my wheat field, or whatever it is. So that one, the knots, I thought the videos were great. So I'm gonna go back and pull some more of those up and rewatch that a few times. And the other thing is too, goes back to when you started, and what is your paradise? Is it the sandy beach, or is it looking out your picture window in your house? And what do you want that to look like out there? So I thought that was a neat way to start your presentation.
Well, it's I guess I'm glad I live where I do. I think there's a lot of people out there that work all week so that they can have that 1 or 2 days doing what they really want to do, and I'm lucky enough to be able to do what I want to do all the time. So
Right.
Exactly.
We didn't silence Kenny completely. He did get in the chat. So
He figured it out, didn't he?
he did. Yes.
Okay.
This is what he said. As Dave mentioned, grounding the fence makes the fence work. And then he also added 3 feet of ground rod per jewel. And that's what I think I had read too, was 3 feet per jewel.
okay.
So, yeah.
Yep,
Thanks,
so
Kenny.
Yes, thank you, Ken.
We knew he'd figure out a way.
Right.
Excellent. And I think the quote of the night, Dave, if you're okay with it, I think the quote of the evening is, by looking at it with a different set of eyes, it can open your eyes. And so that's my quote of the evening that you said, that I thought summarized, actually it kind of summarized your entire talk to some degree. And really, I think you had an appropriate name for it. Don't get caught on the fence.
Right.
And you showed how not to do that this evening. So I think that fit in very well with this evening's conversations.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. Probably, Trish, maybe last call for anyone that would like
Yeah.
to ask a question.
Anybody else that would like to unmute and ask a question? always the awkward silence.
You did an excellent job, Dave. And
Thank you.
sounds like you're going to have an interesting adventure coming up with maybe some on-farm slaughter going on in the
Yeah.
future, possibly. And I
Yep.
know there's some family expertise there.
Yeah, yeah,
That'll really be helpful. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, we've been doing it in Dad's garage for so long. He's kind of like, I'd really like to get all this stuff into some place where we can just go and cut up meat and not have to move all my vehicles out and everything else. So.
No, he's kicking you out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, really enjoyed the evening. It was a very good learning opportunity. And Trish, again, excellent job you've been doing for the Munch on this series. I know it's a real commitment, time on your part and all the arrangements. So appreciate all that, and appreciate the Grazing Coalition. And Dave Bauer is an excellent job, as we knew it would be.
Yes.
And so I think with that, we're kind of on our last call here for that last question, if there is. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to Trish, and we'll conclude.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Dave. And just as a reminder, Thursday evening is our last evening of Munch on This. And we have Dr. Rebecca Phillips joining us. And that topic will be what grassland managers want to know about carbon and methane. So that should be very
good.
Yes, very good topic to touch on, especially in this day and age. So I'm excited about that one as well. And so without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and end. Dave, thank you for joining us tonight and for the great job. Jay, thank you once again for moderating for me. It's greatly appreciated.
Happy to be here.
Okay, everybody have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really good.